Hello everyone and welcome to Memory Flow, where we discuss fragrances and fragrance collecting. Today I will speak to you about none other than Jubilation XXV Man from the very house of Amouage. Now, this is a huge fan favorite from the house of Amouage. So I wonder what I can tell you that hasn't been said before. Now, first of all, I wonder what I can say about this fragrance other than it's just simply amazing. Now, as you know, Amouage, the house of Amouage, which comes from the kingdom of Oman, is all about resins. They're very famous for their frankincense, for their myrrh, and some such. And this is where unburnt resins shine. I mean, this is by far... So, first of all, I should tell you that I have quite a few of their fragrances. I have Gold Man, and also I have Epic Man, and Interlude Man, and Journey Man, and Journey Woman, and Memoir Man, and if I'm forgetting something, that's fine. Now, and also Figment Man. So they're all resinous, and probably the most resinous of them all is Interlude Man, where everything is burning. That fragrance has that unique quality to it of being sort of like pushed into a burning campfire, where you feel the smoke, you feel the burning coals, you feel everything around you burning while you're wearing the fragrance. But this is totally different with Jubilation XXV. But we'll get to the resins when we reach the notes section of the fragrance review. So, how did Jubilation XXV come to be? So in 2008, Amouage released two fragrances, as they normally do in their basic, in their regular collection. They released Jubilation XXV with Roman numerals for men and with Arabic numerals for women. So they wanted to, first of all, in 2007, I think, they celebrated their 25th birthday, if you can say that about a company. So they celebrated 25 years of existence, and they wanted to celebrate this with a jubilee, which is actually where the term jubilation comes from. Now, jubilation has a double meaning. You get it because it's marketing and it's great. So it both means jubilation as in jubilee, but also from the verb to jubilate, which means to be happy. Also, Jubilation XXV marks the debut of Christopher Chong as creative director at Amouage, and his beautiful journey that just ended I think last year, maybe 2019, when he stepped down to make room for their new creative director, but I guess he has a different name. He's chief something. I will look it up and write it on the video. Chief Experience Officer, I think, which is Renaud Salmon. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. If you're curious about Renaud Salmon and his taking over as creative director or chief officer, whatever, chief experience officer, you can watch Percelaise's very wonderful interview, which I will link to you in the description below. So, back to Jubilation XXV. It marks the debut of Christopher Chong, and his wonderful, wonderful journey with, well, no pun intended, but I guess, well, pun intended, with the House of Amouage. And while we don't know what the future holds for this house, and I hope it's in good hands, I mean, I'm pretty sure it's in good hands because they know what they're doing, this also is a thank you to Christopher Chong and all his wonderful, wonderful work for this house. And I hope he gets back to the perfume industry soon. Now, the nose behind this this fragrance is Bertrand Duchaufour, and he has worked with resins before because he made Comme des Garçons Incense Avignon, and this, as I said, this is a wonderful, wonderful resinous fragrance, and it shows because the perfumer knows his stuff here. Just very quickly, I want to look on the notes, but also I should apply this because I have prolonged this long enough. Now, this is not a first impression. I have been wearing this fragrance for, as I said, maybe 2 years now, and I haven't used up quite a bit because this is quite potent. This is just wonderful. Wait, so let's just read the notes. There's peach, then there's coriander, there's labdanum, of course, this is a resin, then there's green notes, you have olibanum, which is frankincense basically, then there's blackberry, which is quite subdued. I wouldn't say this is a blackberry. This is not a fruity kind of, where there's a synthetic fruity note in the top. This is not. Do not expect this. Do not go into the realm of maybe Bulgari Man in Black. No, this is quite different. Then there's, of course, guaiac wood and cinnamon and bay leaf, honey, and orchid, and the list is just huge. Then there's rose, there's cloves, there's cumin. No, there's celery seeds. Sorry. Then there's opoponax, of course, and patchouli, definitely, and myrrh, and cedar, and musk, oak moss, ambergris, oud, of course, and immortelle. Now, after this huge, huge list, and I so lovingly remember Katie Puckrick when she said that this huge list is like something that the three mages maybe were delivering to baby Jesus. And then she said maybe baby Jesus doesn't need this fragrance, and the three mages should swing to our house instead. Well, totally agree with you, Katie Puckrick, and we sorely miss you. Please come back to YouTube. This has fruits. Yeah, this is fruity, but you can't say this is peach, you can't say this is blackcurrant, you can't say this is what did they call it? Blackberry. You can't say for sure. What you can say that this is a honey fruity fragrance. So right from the start you get honey. This is a honey fragrance, and imagine the wonderfulness, the richness that this fragrance creates with the accord of the resins and the honey. And the honey, as I said, is fruited. And what comes out of this is a warm, boozy, almost boozy, like, I don't want to say rum because it doesn't remind me of rum. It reminds me of maybe champagne, maybe sangria, but that would be maybe sangria because of the rose. So everything is very, very deeply well blended, but there is a boozy aspect to it, which you cannot deny. It exists. Then there's the spices, which just, I mean, I couldn't tell you that I get coriander or I get the celery seeds or I get anything, but what they do is that they exalt this whole deal. They amp it up, and they make it more like in your face, but this is not an in your face fragrance. No, not at all. This is quite discreet in a confident type of manner, in a man that, or a person rather, that's very confident in himself when wearing this. So a person that doesn't need a fragrance to scream, to announce him before he or she enters a room. So looking on the notes again, I do get what I want to accentuate to you. If I could maybe paint this olfactory image, is that, so there is the resins. The resins are not burning. The resins are in their oily form. They are subdued. They are meditative. They are contemplative. They induce tranquility. This is not like Interlude, which is my second favorite from the house, mind you, where everything is loud, everything is screaming, everything is burning. This is subdued. And I've read somewhere, and I can't remember where, but I think it was on Fragrantica. I will link the article if I find it. That this is supposed to be inspired by the night. Yeah? So I get it. I understand why. So this is very meditative. This is very tranquility inducing. This is quiet. This is peace of mind resins that I absolutely love. Now there's two types, as I've said, there's mostly two types of resins you can have in a fragrance. There's the burning ones, or the smoky ones, or the incense that's burning or was burnt at some point, and then there's the oily form of the resins. And this reminds me of opium, only without the candle, the wax candle quality. But mind you, this is quite original. Now, I haven't smelled anything that resembles this fragrance, with the probable exception of Bentley for Men. Which one is it? Intense, yeah, the cognac colored one. This is quite unique, but that fragrance is quite, I mean, it's in the ballpark, and I will want to do a review on that separate, or maybe a comparison between the two, because that's a good fragrance as well. Now, another thing that's quite unique to this fragrance is the fruited honey accord. Yeah, this is quite soothing. It's warm, it's rich, it's engulfing. It almost has a gourmand quality. And when you think about it, I know that honey is quite difficult to interpret in a fragrance because it can go terribly wrong. But this honey is just, this is not sticky. It's not, I mean, I've talked about honey in my Amouage Woman review because it's that's also a honey fragrance, but that was honey with Immortelle, because this, I think this is where the honey smell comes from, and this one has Immortelle as well. I don't know how they created this honey accord, but maybe that's one. That's how. So it's quite, I mean, it's not unlike Journey Woman's honey. It's not unlike, it's just smoother, it's just fruitier, and it's blended so well with the resins. Okay, what I don't get from this is I don't get any cedar, I don't get any oak moss. I wouldn't be able to tell you if there's ambergris in this, but what I can tell you is that there is oud in it. This is another fragrance that's very gentle, and it treats oud so well, because oud generally tends to be so loud and so obnoxious and so hard to take in a fragrance. Maybe it's just me. I'm not a huge oud fan. I'm a huge resin fan. But the oud in here is just as a support. It's just, it's slightly animalic. It's slightly, it just gives that twist, that dirty, that maybe putrid twist that's so welcome in it, in otherwise such a clean fragrance. It's just here to tell us that, wait, I'm not I'm not that pristine, I'm not that clean, I'm not that pleasant. I do have a dark side, and this is just great. This is so welcome. This is a purely complete fragrance, in my opinion. This is simply, for lack of words, this is simply amazing. Now, in terms of performance, this, as I've said, this is not a loud fragrance. I wouldn't be able to tell you about the sillage, because it seems it's rather it's a rather low to medium sillage, maybe like this, because as you move you can feel it. I've worn it today, I've worn it to the gym, because, well, these days this is the only place I can go, and it's very hot outside, and this, by the way, this didn't bother me at all. This is such a good blend. This can't, imagine how heavy this composition is, how heavy on the resins, on the flowers, on the fruits, and on the whatnot. What doesn't this have? The spices. But this didn't bother me at all on the heat, because this has it has this wonderful quality of being perfectly balanced. Yeah, so this isn't a winter fragrance, this isn't a spring fragrance. There's no such thing when it comes to Jubilation 25. You can wear this whenever. Now back to performance. This has maybe 10 hours more or less you can get out of this fragrance for people who care about stuff like this. I generally prefer fragrances that last from maybe 4 hours to 8 to 9 hours, because as I've said, I want to maybe in the evening wear something different, because I have a huge collection of fragrances and I want to sample, and the next day I don't want to smell from of the fragrance I was using the day before. So for me this is just perfect. This is an Amouage nevertheless, and this is potent stuff. I mean, I'm pretty sure nose fatigue or anosmia comes into play. This is where this is why I spray it rather lower on the chest, as opposed to maybe the neck, as to be able to feel myself during the day. So this fragrance is sold for something like $300 US, but you can find it discounted online from anywhere between $150, $170 and up, which is quite a decent price to pay for this, I think, because this is absolute gorgeous quality. So I understand why this is such a huge fan favorite. This definitely is very well blended. This is quality, potent. It's so good that this just screams quality, and it reminds me of their, I think it's their motto, which is the gift of kings. Well, the gift of kings couldn't be more appropriate for any other fragrance than for Jubilation 25. With that being said, I hope you've enjoyed this review. Do leave a comment of your opinion or experience you've had with Jubilation 25 or any other fragrance from the house of Amouage that you'd like me to review, or maybe you have an opinion of. And do subscribe to my channel if you like this type of content. And remember, wear only what you love, not what they tell you to wear.